Hi there, it's Sue, and thanks for joining me for Tips and Talk Day. These are bite-sized topics that I pull from community questions and things that I'm observing in the world of handmade small business. If you'd like to submit a topic, DM me over on Instagram at GiftBizUnwrapped. Today we're going to talk about managing through a PR crisis. This is something you can have in your back pocket so that if you are in a situation where you need it, it's going to be here, ready, and available for you. Managing through a PR crisis. Something happens you weren't expecting, and now what? How do you manage through it? Do you even address it at all? These are all the things that we're going to cover. This might apply for you as a maker in a couple of different ways. First off, if you have some type of an ingredient in your product that has started to make people sick, or anything that's in the news that's associated directly with your product, or some element that's included in your product. That could be an issue and a reason why this would become a PR crisis for you. Another thing could be if you've been associated with somebody and their behavior is just not acceptable. This may be something you need to address. Let's talk through what would you do if this type of situation comes up for you. I have 3 different things that I want you to think about to gauge what your level of response is going to be. The first thing is, what's your level of connection with the situation at hand? It could be very distant. In that case, I wouldn't even bring it up. There's no reason that you need to do anything at all. You could have a moderate connection. In other words, some of your customers know that you're linked with this situation or this person. Or you could have a high connection, a very obvious direct link with that person or company. So that's the first thing you look at. What is my level of connection with the situation? Distant, moderate, or high? The second thing that you do is think about your position on the issue. Do you support the position? Do you feel like, yeah, I wasn't really happy about this, so I'm not liking it, but I get that you made a mistake and we'll be okay? Or is the situation such that you feel like you need a major disconnect? You do not want to be attached, or you feel like you need to disconnect from the situation or person entirely. So this is the second thing that you want to analyze. What's your position on the issue? And then based on that, then you decide what your actions are going to be. The reason this is important is because you want to make sure that any response that you have is in line with the level of intensity or severity of the infraction. If you're not really connected with the person to a high degree and their infraction is minimal, I wouldn't do anything at all, because if you do something, you're actually calling attention to the situation versus you not being connected with it in the first place. In terms of number 1 and 2, your level of connection and your position on the issue, sometimes it's best just not to do anything. But if you have a strong connection with this person, saying nothing could suggest that you're condoning the behavior. You want to be careful with that as well. So you've got to think of, well, is doing nothing sending the wrong signal to my customers? Once you've judged this, and you've decided if you, first off, need to do anything about it, and if you do, to what level. Here are some different types of actions that you might take. First is totally pulling the product either out of your inventory. Certainly if you're a baker and there's an ingredient that has started making people sick, comes with some health ramifications, anything like that, that's pretty obvious. You're going to stop using that product. And if customers knew that you were using that product, then you're probably going to want to make a statement that, yes, in the past, we've used that ingredient. Now that we know that it's not healthy, it has been pulled out, it has been replaced. If you have something that you've included in a tangible product that maybe is now dangerous or has a metal that's been found not to be good or something like that, or even a business that represents that product has come under some scrutiny that's to a level that you don't condone, then you're going to address it. You're going to talk about it with your client, you're going to address it, and then you're going to say what your action is going to be. And this is the last part, is either, yes, you're going to address the situation, or no, you aren't, but if you are going to address it, here's how I was related with it, here's how we feel about it, and here's what we're going to do about it. This is how you manage through a PR crisis. I bring this up because this recently came to the forefront with my business. I've had a couple of situations like this where there have been PR questions, but this particular time it ended up being a little bit more severe because as I ran it through the levels of analysis, I decided that, yeah, this is something that I'm going to need to address. So what happened is I had a guest on one of my podcasts who is intimately involved in the maker world, and I didn't agree with the behavior. It was so off acceptance to me that there wasn't even a question about whether this behavior was appropriate or not. But I needed to sit back and think, like, how do I actually handle this? To me, it was serious enough that I couldn't just not do anything. I needed to make a statement and I needed to take action. So here I was associated with this particular person. Great interview. Honestly, it was so good. I'm sure a lot of you who follow the podcast would have heard it, but I needed to pull it down because even being associated in that way looked like I was condoning what had become big news. So I ended up pulling the podcast down in its entirety, but I had links everywhere. So if I pulled that podcast link and made that a dead link, that wouldn't be good for SEO, wouldn't be good if people went searching for it, etc. Because, over time, you forget where all of your links are, too. If you're promoting certain products that you make, you don't remember if maybe they're on an Instagram post or in some type of collateral material. So what I did instead is I scripted out a response to the situation, explaining why the episode has been pulled down. Not totally bashing anybody, but being very stern on how I feel about a situation, and then explaining why it was no longer there. And if you want to hear, it's just a 2.5-minute response. That is in episode number 158. And what I did was I left the link there so that I won't have any dead links. But if someone goes back and they're looking for it, they're going to hear my response instead of hearing the interview. The other thing is I was an affiliate with this company. And again, I felt like my linkage with that affiliation no longer aligned with my core values. So I pulled the affiliate link down as well. Will I lose money because of that play? Probably, but it was something that I felt I needed to do. My other suggestion for you, if you're ever met with a PR crisis, is to try and take your emotion out of it because you are still representing and are the face and the leader of your brand. And you want to make sure that you're positioning any response that you have in the light of the reputation that you want to see. If I started complaining about that particular person, not addressing it in a professional light, I guess is the best way for me to say that, that would come back to me. So the emotions behind it are not what I want to be sharing. Maybe I'll share that privately with people here in the office. If I chat with you one-on-one, if we're over in my private Facebook group, maybe we would talk about it. You want to make sure that the way you're presenting yourself is in a professional light, the way people would want to see you. Stay logical. Clearly, you can have emotion. If you're disappointed, you can say that. If you're totally against a situation, yeah, say that. But getting into nitty-gritty or dirty talk or bashing people, none of that. The situation with a PR crisis is you want to act quickly. You want to take your actions and response quickly in a logical way. This may not be something you address even in this whole year. You may never address it in the whole entire lifetime of your business. But if you do, this is how you work through it on a logical level and take action the way you need to and represent the situation to your audience in the best light that you can so that you remain a leader and someone that people want to follow. Let me summarize once again the steps that you would take. First off, the application would be if you have a product or an ingredient that you're using that is meeting with some controversy, The second might be an association you have with a person who, heaven forbid, has committed a crime, or their behavior is less than representative of what you would want associated with your business. Anything that's negative press that could spin around and point to your business, I consider a PR crisis. That's the definition. Here are the 3 steps that you would take. The first one is gauge the level of connection that you have with the ingredient or person. Is it distant? Is it moderate? Or is it high? Secondly, what's your position on the issue? Do you support what they did? Do they get a hand slap? You're not really happy about it, but you're willing to give them a second chance? Or is it a line in the sand that they have crossed that is just too much for you? So what is your personal take on the situation? From there, you guide what your reaction is going to be. And you want to keep your reaction in line with where you stand on 1 and 2. If you are kind of disconnected or almost totally disconnected from this person and you would give them a hand slap, maybe you are not going to do anything because you don't need to call to light to all your customers the fact that you're associated with something that's negative if they wouldn't know it in the first place. But if it's high, you're very connected with that person and you totally don't agree with what's happened, not doing anything sends the statement that you accept that behavior. And that can affect your business and your sales. Options that you have of what to do: pulling the products or switching out an ingredient for something different. Who knows, maybe it'll even be better. And then a verbal statement. You leave emotion out of it. You act logically. By going through this, you know what action to take, and you can take that action right away and then carry on and move forward with business. That's what I've got for you with handling PR crises. That's a wrap. I'm a get-to-the-point kind of girl, and this is what you can expect from these quick midweek sessions. Now it's your turn. Go out and fulfill that dream of yours. Share your handmade products with us. We want them, and they bring us both so much happiness.